guys, what is up, and welcome back to Kitchen Table Meta. So today we have a really exciting episode. I'm super excited about it. I love these type of videos. And so today Bandai made a really cool announcement, an unprecedented announcement. Actually, I've never seen another game do this. And that is Bandai announced they're going to ban temporarily ban SS3 Goku. Temporary being the key word here. Like I said, I've never seen anyone do this before, and it's super exciting to me. Now, that's not to say I haven't seen a company ban something and then later bring it back, but I've never seen a company say, hey, we're going to ban this card for a little bit and then bring it back out. That's super cool, and we're going to get into the essentially their announcements, and I'm going to talk a little bit about their announcement, why I think that SS3 got banned and why I think it's definitely necessary, and then finally talk about some the decks and how the meta is going to change after this ban coming up in 8 days. So really excited. So let's jump right in. Like I said, I want to get this. I love talking about these announcements. It always gets me so excited. I love when Bandai talks to the community. I love when they express themselves to the community. It's amazing. They're honestly probably the best game or best company that's ever done this. I mean, I've seen like obviously like Wizards and other companies have done it, but they Bandai just does it so frequently. And it's just great to hear from them. It's great to hear their ideas and their motivations why they do things. I think it's just great. So let's jump right in and talk about it. So it says, as we said before, having seen the decks of top players from national championship regionals in North America and just in general, which I love that they said that, just generally, that's amazing. Such a good card. We limited BT4-045, the legendary flute, to 1 copy and decided to take Heightened Evolution Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku off the watch list. Now, why this is important, it's something I want to talk about very quickly for those that may not know. Essentially what happened is after the Mecha Frieza errata, SS3 quickly took over the format. It's almost obviously the best deck. It just did things that other decks didn't do. Again, I'll talk about this after I get through this Bandai announcement of kind of the problems of SS3 design-wise and why I think it got banned. Essentially, people were pretty upset about it. And then Bandai was like, hey guys, look, we're going to put SS3 Goku on the watch list. And it got the community super excited. After this community outcry, everyone was super pumped because last time a leader got put on the watch list, which was Mecha Frieza, it got changed. It got errated, and we were super hopeful and everyone was really excited. And then they announced what they're going to do to the changes. And they said, hey, look, we're taking Flute from 4 to 1 and we're taking Goku off the watch list. And that really surprised a lot of people, me, myself included. We thought something was happening. We thought a change was going to happen, and they just said, no, it's fine. And I think what led Bandai to that decision was the fact that, while SS3 Goku was very dominant at events, it never really won any events. All the big events were won by Harudigan there for a while, and I think that really kind of changed their outlook, which is, honestly, guys, from a design perspective, it's very hard a lot of the times to get actual usable statistics from tournament results. I think you should always keep them in mind, but it's really hard. And so like if all the content creators and all the community is saying, hey guys, look, SS3 Goku is the best deck, it's the deck you should be playing, you're bad if you don't play it, if they just keep encouraging everyone to play it, and then 90% of players show up to a tournament with that deck, sometimes it's not because the deck is the best deck in the format. Sometimes it's just the most popular one. And I think maybe Bandai got maybe a little distracted by the fact that there was a lot of SS3s, but top cuts, even though there was maybe 80% of the top cut was that leader, it wasn't winning. And so I think maybe they thought maybe the deck is just the most popular deck and not the best deck. I think that was very foolish of them. I think that obviously it was very apparent to everyone that SS3 was not the most popular deck. It was the best deck, and that's why everyone was playing it. But I do want to kind of share that side of things because I think people don't think about that a lot. Obviously, as a leader gets good or as a card gets good, its popularity rises, and so then a lot of times it's hard to see if it's just being played because it's popular or it's being played because it's good. And I think maybe this is the misstep Bandai, kind of suffered by taking off the watch list. Again, I don't want to speak for Bandai. I don't know their reasons for it. They never really explained it. They just said that, it was doing good, but it wasn't doing good enough. And so that's why I think from that small little description from their last letter that's just what they thought. They thought, okay, it's doing good, but it's not winning, so it's fine. Okay, so moving on. They say, however, even after the limiting of the legendary flute on September 21st, taking the current meta into consideration, we still believe that the Super Saiyan 3 Goku leader will continue to dominate the competitive scene. And so they're saying, okay, we tried the format with only one flute, and honestly, Goku is still wrecking. It's still doing really well. It's still dominating. It's still the best leader in our testing. I think that for all those people who say Bandai doesn't test, which I think is just in itself a ridiculous claim, this proves otherwise. Like, they have tested eternally. They still think it's not good enough. And so they're just like, okay, you know what? We're going to temporary ban it. Fantastic job by Bandai, and I'm glad they're being so transparent, and they're okay with changing their mind, which I think a lot of companies suffer from. There's a lot of companies, Wizards is another company that's pretty bad about it, where they will do things that are obviously hurting the game or obviously hurting the meta, and they'll just stick behind their guns. They'll say, no, it's fine. Trust us, guys. We know best. You know, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Our thing is better. You know, our decision is better. And, you know, Bandai is saying, look, we made a mistake. We thought it was going to fix it. It didn't. So now we're going to take changes to make it a very noble effort. And it's just fantastic to see a company do that. So next up, they say, so because of that, so because of its continued dominance, BT3032 Son Goku Heightened Evolution Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku will be temporarily banned started September 28th. We currently plan on banning the card from then, so from September 28th until November 8th. It will again be usable starting November 9th. Again, this is the kind of unprecedented part of this. Like I said, I've never seen a company ban something with the intention to unban it once another set comes out. I think that's really cool. So what they're doing here is they're just going to temporarily ban the card until the pieces of the puzzle that they want to add to the game to deal with this card are in play. So I love that. I think that's an extremely cool idea by Bandai. Obviously, SS3 Goku was a very popular leader. I mean, it's a Goku leader, so obviously people love that card. I mean, it's just Goku's a huge part of the game. And so taking that card out completely, you know, could really hurt some of the casual crowd. And so I like that they're saying, listen, we don't want to hurt the competitive scene, but we want to keep that casual crowd around. We want to make sure they can still play with the card they want to. So we're going to temporarily ban it for X amount of time until November 8th. When the new set comes out, now we're re-releasing it out into the wild where it actually has some predators. It has some things that can deal with it. Awesome job by them. It's great that they actually created some hate for the card. We saw the Dende card that got released in the black cards, which, by the way, guys, I am going to do a black review and the next color review by next week as well. I'm a little bit behind, but I'm catching up. I'm getting all my stuff done for these upcoming streams, so I'm going to start, you know, releasing those review videos for the next set. So I'll talk a little bit about that card then. But they printed Dende. They printed some other hate for the card, and they're saying, listen, it's not going to be as good once it has this hate for it. But right now, it's devastating. And I know you guys are getting bored playing this format. You know, it's just not a good format, so we're taking care of that temporarily for you guys. Fantastic job by Bandai. So now they say, we in the Dragon Ball Super card game team wish to offer our sincerest apologies that we were unable to see this coming back on August 17th. I love that Bandai says this. I love that they're being sincere and they're saying, look, it's our fault. I'm sorry we didn't see that this was going to be a problem, and we're trying to fix it. You know, we know the damage has been done, but we're trying to play damage control. We're trying to fix this. But at the end of the day, if we could have seen how this card was going to act and how it was going to, you know, how good it was going to be, then, you know, we would have been able to stop this. And I think it's important to realize that I think the main reason SS3 kind of spiraled out of control, or why it went under the radar a little bit, was because the Mecha Frieza, you know, kind of disaster happened, and so their attention was focused on that. Remember, it's really important to remember that when Danny, you know, Hype was playing in San Jose, and he was playing the SS3 Goku deck, he was the underdog, right? People thought, like, how did SS3 make it? You know, how's it getting so far? How is it dealing with Mecha Frieza? And I think that's pretty important to realize that the deck went from being like an underdog deck, you know, deck that, you know, people thought might not be that great, to one of the best decks in the format. So it wasn't just Bandai who saw it go on the radar. No one saw this card come out and said, this is going to be the best card in the game. It's going to ruin the format. Nobody did. And so I'm glad that they took the initiative and they're saying, hey, look, we're sorry, but honestly, that's card game design, right? That's, you can never know exactly what's going to be OP or what's going to be too strong. There's so many pieces of the puzzle. There's so many things that can happen. It's very easy to print something that later turns into a problem. I am going to talk about the design of SS3 and why I think it was pretty obvious there were some problems with it, but I don't think we should attack Bandai here. They're apologizing, and I think that from one designer, I guess, to another, it is difficult. It is very difficult. You know, you'll print a card. I've done it multiple times. I've printed a card and I've showed it to my friends. I've showed it to John, or I've shown it to Zach, and I would say, gosh, I got this awesome card I made. And they're just like, dude, this is so broken here, here, and here. And I'm like, I never thought about that. Okay, holy crap. So yeah, I really appreciate that apology from Bandai. Moving on, they say we also owe our uttermost apologies to players participating in tournaments around the world. We ask for your continued understanding as we work hard to improve the meta for the game going forward. We're dedicating ourselves to designing more cards in hopes that Dragon Ball fans and card game fans alike can enjoy our game. We ask that you continue supporting us in the future, the Dragon Ball team. Dragon Ball Super card game team. And I think that's awesome that they're saying, listen, I'm not only going to apologize for not noticing this, we're also going to apologize to the players that go to these events. We know you guys are playing in a pretty dull format right now, and it's our fault. We're sorry. We apologize. And I think, guys, if this doesn't reinstate your I don't know, your support to the Dragon Ball Super card game and the team, they care. They obviously care. They don't have to do what they just did. They don't have, I mean, I guess you could argue that they really needed to ban the card, or they needed to fix it in some way, but they didn't have to come out and take responsibility. They didn't have to come out and apologize. That's something they didn't have to do, and they did that. And to me, that's like the most, I can't give them any more respect for doing that. So. Okay, so yeah, so good thing is temporary ban. Thing to take away from this, the first part, temporarily banned September 28th to November 8th. You can play it again starting November 9th once Set 5 is in full swing. Fantastic, great decision by Bandai. I'll talk a little bit about why I like about it, a little bit about why I don't like about it in this next segment, which I'm going to say why I think it was banned and kind of the problem with SS3 Goku. This is a video I've wanted to make for a long time, talking about some stuff that I think that made the leader a little bit problem, and some things that maybe Bandai can take away from and say, you know what, maybe if we had these kind of design ideas, we won't make any more leaders like this in the future. So starting off with why I think it was banned. Well, simply put, I think the main reason why this card was banned, and the main reason it should have been banned, was that it limited leader diversity. The problem with SS3 Goku is that it just does what every other leader does better. That's literally solely because of the untap mechanic, but there's other things as well that we'll talk a little bit about. But you know, the way this game is played, it's always supposed to be a risk to tap out your energy. Anytime you take your energy and you tap it, and you play something out, you're essentially lowering your defenses to strengthen your offense, right? If you play a 6 drop on 6, you lift yourself defenseless to play a big threat. That threat is supposed to either win you the game or put your opponent at such a disadvantage because they have to use so many cards to stop it that they won't be able to use cards to kill you, right? So you're getting defense on the offense, just kind of basic how the game was kind of meant to be played. And SS3 Goku kind of turned that on its head. And instead what happened was you can play your 6 on 6, untap 3, and now you have a 6 drop on 6 and have 3 energy to defend yourself. And it just didn't, it was something that no other leader could do. And because of that, it was just better to play your leader, SS3 leader with anything else. It just made more sense, and that added defense. A lot of people refer to it as training wheels. That kind of like that security that you always had just always made it better to play that leader than any other leader. Now, the only way they could essentially change that was to make extremely powerful leaders to try to combat that, and that's kind of a spirally you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to fight fire with fire in that regard. And I like that they didn't do that. They went a different route, which I really enjoy, and that is pressuring SS3's energy. Now, I still think that even when they bring them back out, untapping 3 is still very good, guys. In fact, I've been on record saying that I think that untapping 3 or untapping 2 or whatever should maybe just have been a core part of the game. Maybe that's something they should have just added into the game to make the games last, to be a little more grindy, make it be more interactive. The interaction in this game comes from the combo step. And so when you're tapped out, there's not that much interaction because if you have too many cards in your hand that have 1 plus 10,000, you can't really interact. You can't use any of your stuff. So I think that untapping of energy is something that's been great in this game. Senzu Bean has been great. The Trunks has been awesome, and obviously SS3 Goku has been great. And I think they either need to add more of it, or would just add that as a core mechanic in the game. And I think until they do something like that, whether they add more of it or punish it from happening, SS3 will always be a playable leader just because it's so powerful. The last thing I want to talk about with SS3, and I think a big downside with him, or reason why he got banned, is that SS3 Goku is a leader that doesn't have a downside, but he's a leader that was printed with a bunch of downsides. And I think when we first reviewed the card, we saw it and we thought, this card's going to be good, it's great, whatever. But it does have a lot of downsides, and we in our mind, I'm sure as Bandai, when they printed this card, they thought, oh, you know what, it's restricted, you can only have 6 energy. That's a huge deal. You have to take 2 of your life and put it in energy at the start, so you start with 6 energy instead, 6 life instead of 8 like everyone else. That's huge. What ended up happening is that the downsides just weren't good enough. In fact, the playing with 6 energy is the big one I want to talk about, because that's one I really think they thought was going to be a big downside, and 2 things happened. Number one, as we were playing through set 2, we learned as a player base that you don't need a bunch of energy. In fact, a lot of games are lost, especially in like the SS Soul Striker mirror. I won a lot of games because I would stop charging energy and my opponent would keep charging energy, and I just won off card advantage, right? And so SS3 Goku kind of tricked players into playing correctly, right? It was like, you can only have 6 energy, so here we go. You know what I mean? Like, and so players, they would go to 6, they would stop, and they would have a lot of cards in their hand. They would start, understanding that that's what you probably should do. It was like I said, it was tricking players into playing correctly. Now you move forward into the more aggressive format that we have now, and you don't make it to 6 energy. You never have 6 energy against a lot of these. I guess Harudegan and Gohan, against these decks, you never have that much energy, and so that downside never comes into play. It never comes into effect. And so that was one big downside I think the leader was supposed to have, and it just never happened. If they would have said you can only have 4 energy, for example, then that would have been a much bigger downside that could have limited the leader. But saying, hey, look, you can have 6, it's an insignificant number. It might as well have been 8. It doesn't matter. We never get to 6. I mean, half the time we don't even make it to 5, so it just doesn't matter, right? The second part that was, I think, supposed to be the downside was taking the life at the beginning. We have seen certain situations where you take your life, you get 2 black cards, and it's like, oh no, that stinks. My energy's messed up. Oh shoot. But people, good players have just designed their decks so that limit that ability from happening. And then, in fact, it actually just helps them awaken faster. So it takes you from 8 life to 6 life. That's another thing that we've learned about this game. Awakening is really important. And, even from set 1, when we play Vegeta and Ginyu leaders, awakening yourself is not a downside like we thought it was. Like, for example, Kaba, that card, attacking with that card and taking a life, that was supposed to be a downside on the card. And in fact, it's really what's made it really playable. That's another part, I think, where they thought this is a downside. Starting the game with 6 life, that stinks. In reality, it doesn't stink. It's just a race to get to 4 life so you can awaken. It's actually a huge upside in the card. And so that's why I think the leader kind of is really so overpowered now, is that the downsides don't meet the upsides. Untapping 3 is just a huge upside, and the downsides aren't even really downsides. And so in my opinion, that is why SS3 deserves to be banned. And I honestly think even when it gets reinstated, it'll probably still be a very powerful leader. Again, we haven't seen the whole set. It's impossible to know exactly what's going to happen moving forward. But currently, I think even with Dende and this other stuff, I still think the leader is very powerful. So, okay, and then move on to the last segment about this video, and that is how does SS3 being changed affect the format? What's going to happen? What are some decks that you should be looking out for? So first thing I want to do is I want to draw your attention, guys, to one of our pro team members here at KitchenTableMeta, Richard Zapp. He just published today an article about this. So I'm not going to go into super detail about that. Instead, I'm going to in the description, I'm going to put the link to his article, let you guys go check it out. He can explain it way better than I ever could. He's done a lot of testing and a lot of theory crafting in the situation. So definitely go check out that article. It's a great read. Richard Zapp just being a fantastic member of the KitchenTableMeta pro team and just a great player in general. But what I will do is kind of give some of my predictions and some things that I think will be good going forward. I think me and Richard agree on some things. Obviously, we disagree on some other ones. But the main thing to remember is with the removal of SS3 Goku, we're going to go back to a more healthy meta, which is what I call the rock, paper, scissors meta. Now, this is the meta that you're looking for in any game. You're looking for 3 decks that do well, and then each one of them prey on each other, and so it creates this like circle. This deck A beats deck B beats deck C beats deck A, and then because of this rock paper scissors meta, you can have fringe decks. You can have decks that prey on the other decks, and what happens is you can make meta predictions. So you can say, okay, I think there's going to be a lot of deck A, I think there's going to be a lot of deck B, so I'm going to make this deck that beats deck A and deck B but loses to deck C all the time. That's okay though, because I just don't think there's going to be very many deck C in the format, and that's great. That's a great format to be in. It encourages creativity and it allows fringe decks to do well. And so the first deck, we'll talk about deck A, which is, I think, will be aggro. Obviously, aggro is always the most popular deck going forward in any new format. And I think Harudegan and Universe 7 Gohan are going to be the 2 aggro decks that you need to beat. I think they're going to be fantastic decks. I think they're very fast. They're also blue based. They have a lot of access to the blue cards that accelerate their plan, obviously, and then they also have a lot of card draw and a lot of the ability to pressure your opponent very quickly. Now SS3, while it was a very oppressive leader, it was the most defensive leader. So a lot of these decks like Harudegon and stuff did struggle against SS3 sometimes because they had the ability to play out like a blocker on 2 or 3 and then untap their energy and then stop your attacks and then use the energy to protect. These decks can sometimes attack 5, 6, even 7 times a turn, and so it's very scary to not have that energy available. So I think aggro is definitely has risen with the decline of SS3 Goku. Moving on, something else is the cell chain. Cell chain decks are always those decks to look out for whenever the meta changes. Hand destruction is just a great essentially a great format or a great archetype to play, and honestly, no one does it better than Cell, right? Cell Chain is just fantastic. There's obviously a lot of Cell Chain decks you can play, but in my mind, I think Androids is probably the best Cell Chain deck. It's doing well now with SS3 in the format, and a lot of the times when it loses, it's usually due to SS3, and so I think with that removal, it's going to be even better. I think it's obviously Harudegon puts a lot of pressure on Cell decks, so that's where I think the Paper Rock Scissors is going to be. But a lot of times when Cell lost against its blue matchup, which is almost, Cell Chain is essentially was always, I don't know if it was designed that way, but it was always kind of used to prey on blue decks. So Soul Striker was a huge thing in set 2 and set 3. And I think the same thing is going to happen here. I think Cell is going to be able to prey on those decks, the Cell Chain decks. While I think Harudegon decks are very good against Cell Chain, I also think Cell Chain has a lot of ways to deal with that. They have a lot of blockers. They have free blockers. They also have the universe, Android 17 that comes in play and kills something. These are things that's going to be able to get it back into, I think the swing of things, and actually maybe even be the deck to beat. So again, if you're wanting to play something that's familiar, but maybe was a little oppressed before, I think Cell Chain is a great decision to play. And then finally, you're going to want to play a defensive deck. That's going to be the rock. I guess the scissors of the Paper Rock Scissors. Deck C is defensive deck, right? We need something to beat these aggro decks. We need something that's can beat it 100% of the time with no problem at all, and that's going to be defensive decks. Now, the problem is, like we said before, the best defensive deck has always been SS3, right? It just has the ability to play out defensive cards or even offensive cards and set back on that 3 untapped energy. And so what I imagine is going to raise to prominence here are going to be red-blue leaders, right? Leaders that are red in base and also have some tricks that can play blue and have some tricks. The 2 leaders that immediately come to mind is Pan. I think Pan is a fantastic leader defensively. She has the ability to, essentially her defense turns into her offense, right? So she can play cards on your opponent's turn, draw cards from it, and then she has those cards in play, and she can now pressure, the cards that was used to attack her, running her opponent out of resources, fairly quickly. She also can keep a hand size pretty easily, so she might have a decent matchup against Cell as well. I think the key card against Cell, guys, is going to be the new Red Gohan. That card is just fantastic. It's the 3-drop 15k critical that when it attacks, if you have 4 or less cards in hand, you draw 2. That card's going to be a fantastic card to get you back from Cell Chain attacks, and actually just a fantastic card in general. And Pan uses that card very well. It comes into play, it draws her a card, and then she can attack, draw 2 more. It just can really get her to a... So essentially, if she gets Cell Chain, she goes to 3 cards. She plays the card, goes to 4, attacks, goes to 6. And it's just fantastic. It's just a great response to Cell Chain, and obviously she has the defense to deal with Harudegon. The next was a little bit of a spicy build. We saw in the last regional by ARG, we saw the Red Goku deck that was really cool. It used the Red Goku leader to essentially have all these Sensu Beans. It could Sensu Bean itself. It has the red negate that also Sensu Beans. It could also use its ability to Sensu Bean itself, and it was really giving the Harudegon decks a run for their money. They really had a hard time getting through all of this defense, and then it would eventually just win with pressure, whether it's Chain Attack Zeno or just other high impact cards. So I think the deck, obviously gets better. Every time I watched it on stream, again, it was losing to SS3 most of the time because that deck was able to play out something and then usually respond to their defense with just card advantage and more energy. So I think with SS3 being gone, that Red Goku might be defensive enough to deal with the Harudegon decks. Obviously, though, remember all these decks in this defensive category are going to be you're going to have to find a way to not only beat aggro but survive Cell Chain, because that's sitting there doing nothing for multiple turns and then playing out your big cards is what Cell Chain wants you to do. So again, that's the paper, rock, scissors we're looking for. Remember, aggro being Hirudegan Universe 7, Cell Chain decks being Androids, Mira. Obviously, Cell Leader is also very good. Then defensive decks, look into the red, blue base decks, which are going to be, in my opinion, Pan and Red Goku. There's also some other fringe decks to think about too. Announcer is a deck that's been performing really well in my testing. I've been actually working on a deck list I'll probably have a deck profile up eventually on. It's just been a fun leader to play. Announcer is just a really, really cool deck. And also like the Xeno Maidens. I've heard a lot of people talk about that deck on the forums and stuff, and that's a fantastic deck as well. So there's a lot of other decks that you guys can play. So don't feel like these are only 3 decks you can play, but just remember, in my mind, these are the 3 decks, or the 3 archetypes that are going to succeed after SS3 banning. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That's my breakdown of the SS3 temporary ban done by Bandai. Super excited about it. I'm really happy to make this video for you guys. Like I said, I will have my video up probably by the end of the week with the black card review, and then also do the same thing with the next cards that are released as well. I need to get caught up on the videos. And again, guys, if you haven't, please check out Richard's article. It's just such a great article, and like I said, he breaks this stuff down way better than I could. Just a fantastic player and such a great addition to the team. We are very lucky to have him on the team. Guys, thank you so much for your love and support, guys. Honestly, you guys have been amazing. I know we've been a little slow on the content here recently, but like I said, starting in October, we have some amazing announcements for you guys, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. So until then, guys, we'll see you next time.